What's up, you guys? This is Eric. Quick disclaimer. I was having microphone issues and camera issues, as you're about to see. I had to use the microphone and the camera on my computer, and it had this crackling noise going on throughout the video. I tried my best to fix it, but it's definitely pretty bad in the beginning at some places. So if you skip ahead to the actual meat and potatoes, like the Last Ronin conversation, it's a lot better by then. Also, at one point, my neighbor starts mowing his lawn in the intro. So yeah, definitely just a lot of problems, but you can still listen to this episode. It's still pretty good. If you want to skip it, I understand, but I think you can manage with getting by with the way it is. So yeah, so thanks. Hope you guys enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Party Wagon Podcast, where we talk about all things TMNT, past, present, and future. I'm Eric from the YouTube channel Know You Grow Up.
And I'm Brendan from the YouTube channel Brendan's Rambles. And most of our news this week is going to involve the Mutant Mayhem mania that is going to be kicking off because they are pushing this thing hardcore. And you were lucky enough to get a hold of one of the most holy grail like figure products in this whole mania. How was the cereal?
Yeah, so we opened with this last time because it was such a big deal to me. It's been a long time since turtles have had a cereal, and I'm a big breakfast cereal. Okay, breakfast cereal, what the hell else kind of cereal is there? I'm a big cereal guy. So I was really excited for this, and I hadn't been able to find it myself. And my boss came into work this morning, and he plopped it on my desk. He goes, "Look what I found." So first thing I did after work today is have a bowl, and it is very medium at best, I would say. So here's how I would break it down. Imagine Cookie Crisp without the chocolate chip, but it's like that shape and that texture, and it's apple cinnamon flavor, and then you have the marshmallows in it.
That is not what I was expecting.
Me either. You wouldn't even know it until you actually read it on the box, and then once you actually open it up, you can't see the cinnamon dust on it. But yeah, but it's basically like the texture tastes exactly like Cookie Crisp without the chocolate chips in it. That's exactly what the regular cereal pieces taste like. The marshmallows are pretty good. I'd say they're just as good as any standard marshmallow, but I'm not really a huge cinnamon in my cereal type person. I know everybody loves cinnamon toast crunch, but I don't love cinnamon toast crunch. So for me, it was just okay. Like I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. If it didn't have turtles on it, I'd probably never get it again.
So I liked Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It's not the best. It's not one I would ever go back to and eat again. I hated Apple Jacks. And
so the funny thing is it doesn't really taste like Apple Jacks, I feel like, because Apple Jacks don't really taste like apples. Do you remember those commercials?
Yeah.
When that was like their campaign for a while, it's like, why do they call them Apple Jacks? They don't taste like apples.
They just do.
They just do. Yeah, so more apple-y, almost more cinnamon apple-y. Although, do you remember, did you ever have cinnamon apple Cheerios? Do you remember when those existed?
Like once, I think I had them.
Okay, so it's like a less cinnamony version of those is more like what the flavor is. Like the apple's kind of, it's more of a hint of apple and a little bit more cinnamon, I'd say.
Well, it's not at all what I was expecting. I was expecting it looked like just Pops with like marshmallows, which this sounds better than what that, because Pops are freaking disgusting. This sounds better than that, but like, yeah, I wasn't expecting cinnamon. That's weird. Cinnamon apple ninja turtle. I guess like apple, like green apple. They're trying to do like, that's a stretch.
Yeah, I guess I never put that together. That makes sense too. But I just feel like, I don't know, whenever like a movie or TV show gets a cereal, it's never anything good. You know what I mean? Because I feel like if they make it too good, then people are going to get mad if you take it away. So it's got to be something that like, all right, we'll eat this just because we like what's on the box, but we don't want any backstock later.
Yeah, I was like Hocus Pocus had a cereal last year in store. I didn't try it. I was tempted to, but I'm like, it's probably garbage. So like, I'll just get Count Chocula instead. Yeah, but so they have the cereal. They're doing a big push with a lot of food products. The one that blows my mind the most, makes me the happiest, just puts a big stupid 36-year-old baby smile on my face, is they're doing a partnership with Pizza Hut. And before I get into the details of how cool this partnership is that they're doing now, I just want to say the reason it makes me so happy is like, They always did partnerships with Pizza Hut back in the day. When you got the VHS tape of the first movie, it always came with that baseball Pizza Hut
Right.
commercial. And everyone knows the "Out Where the Dandelions Grow" song if you're from our generation. Even like the arcade game on NES, it came with like Pizza Hut coupons, and they actually have Pizza Hut like signs in the game and stuff. So it's like they always did partnerships with Pizza Hut back in the day, which was funny because the movie actually had Domino's in it, which was kind of messed
Right.
up. But yeah, like it's just cool to be like, oh, like Pizza Hut is a place I went to as a kid. Ninja Turtle was something I loved as a kid, and they crossed over when I was a kid, and now they're crossing over again, and it's just like, wow, it's come full circle.
Yeah, the one thing I didn't see it in the commercial, because I did see the commercial and they were just pushing the big New Yorker pizza, which I mean I'll get just because the turtles were telling me to get it, so I'll definitely do that. But
Exactly.
if they brought back like a kids meal with, I don't even think, do they even do the personal pan pizzas anymore?
They do. I think they do. I haven't been to a Pizza Hut in so long, but
Okay, yeah, it's been a while for me too. So if they did like a personal pan pizza meal, kids meal, and it came with some turtles piece of crap, I would get that for sure.
yeah, that would be awesome. I remember they used to do that. I remember when the Page Master was out with
Oh,
Macaulay Culkin, and I remember getting a personal pan pizza that came with like a big decal of one of the book characters or something. But yeah, I would love to do that. I think they'd still do the personal pans. I know they have like the Pizza Hut Expresses in like Targets or something sometimes, or rest areas, and they only do the personal pans. So I believe so. I could be wrong. I haven't been to one of those, but I think they serve. I maybe they don't have the personal pan. I have no idea. I haven't been to
I mean,
Pizza
that
Hut
would
in
make
like
sense at an express or something like that because you probably are doing like more single serve options, so that would make sense for them. But I mean, I just
yeah.
haven't ordered anything other than a regular sized pizza for myself, and God knows how long, so I wouldn't know. But
Yeah.
yeah, they do something like that. That's a kids meal. I will be all over. And I'm pretty sure McDonald's is actually gonna run a kids meal or a Happy Meal with Turtles figures at
Oh
some
really?
point too.
Oh damn. So yeah, they're doing like the full push. They're doing
Yeah.
everything. But
Well, I mean, think about, so we're at this point we're what, a little bit outside of a month from this
yeah,
movie, and honestly, I feel like it's getting a bigger push than Spider Verse even did.
it is. It is getting a bigger push. Spider Verse is like it's a darling movie. Like everyone's like, oh, it's the greatest thing ever. It's so good. Everyone who saw it was loving it. They didn't really advertise it that much with like products and stuff. They pushed some toys and stuff, but like they didn't market it this heavily with like, yeah, okay. So I have seen some products. Yeah, now I think about it, I have seen some products, but like I just don't feel like it's been pushed this hard. Where like they're putting Mutant Mayhem in literally every single type of consumable product you can make. Like
Yeah.
anything you can purchase is going to have Leonardo's face slapped on it this summer. So
Yeah. The one weird thing I did forget that Spider Verse did have is Burger King had a burger where they dyed the bun red and put black sesame seeds on it. I'm pretty
yeah,
sure. So that is a random one they did.
that sounds disgusting.
Never got it.
Yeah, I haven't been to Burger King in even longer than I've been to Pizza Hut. It's been like
I,
ages since I went to
that
Burger
that's
King.
my one fast food restaurant where every once in a while I'm just like, I just crave some freaking Burger King onion rings.
Really?
And I gotta get some Burger King. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, they're not even like real onion rings. It's like disintegrated onion on the inside. There's no onion in there. You couldn't just pull out an onion, but them and that horsey sauce, man, I just get down on it.
Maybe the Turtles are responsible for that too, because they had the VHS tapes back when we were kids at Burger
Right?
King, and then it was just always ingrained in your mind. Burger King is the better burger place.
Well, I'll always want the chicken tenders that they used to have. Like, I will crave those for the rest of my life. Their original chicken tenders were like my favorite version of any fast food nugget ever.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
vaguely remember those. We were always more of a McDonald's family growing up. I mean, actually, my dad was more of a McDonald's guy. My mom didn't let us eat fast food most of the time when we were kids. She was like a health nut, so we didn't eat a lot of junk food growing up. I mean,
Oh, that's a
obviously I did
bummer.
over time. Look at me now, but um yeah, like when we were little, we didn't get to eat a lot of fast food. So when I was in like my late teens, early 20s, I went nuts with the fast food. But yeah, we usually did McDonald's because that was down the road. So Burger King was like the one I had the least of, I think. But I do remember when like Toy Story was new, like in the mid 90s. I remember going there and getting the chicken tenders once, and I do remember liking them.
Yeah, they were good. They had a little bit of spice to them. They were a different shape than the nuggets. And for me, it was because the only thing we had in my small ass town was a McDonald's. So anytime I got to get anything else, it was like a super big deal because we only had McDonald's. So if we got fast food, it was McDonald's.
Oh, okay, yeah. So if we got fast food, it was usually McDonald's too. But the thing is, fast food in and of itself was like a rare treat.
Yeah,
So we still love McDonald's. But
man. I just wish I feel like it's a really big bummer that I feel like fast food just isn't pushed to kids the way it was when we were
it
kids. I
isn't.
don't know if I should say that's a bummer because it's probably good for them in their lives, but like I don't know, fast food just used to be so magical when you were a kid. Like, and now I just feel like all fast food restaurants are just sterile.
Yeah, that's the thing though, is like they all look like banks now. I don't know if they
Yeah,
redesigned them by you, but they're all just like shoe boxes with different slabs of like texture and
yeah,
color. But like, yeah, they look like banks. They're not appealing. But okay, like you're like, yeah, you don't want to appeal to kids with characters and play places and stuff. It's like, yeah, but the obesity rate in America is higher than ever. So like,
right? You're not winning,
yeah, McDonald's is making more money now than they did back when they had all those characters. So just bring them back, bring back the play place so kids can actually burn those freaking calories after they eat.
right?
And like, well, they're in the right direction. They brought back Grimace for like his birthday.
Yeah, I still haven't gotten that shake yet.
It's like I tried one because I don't eat. I like tried not to eat like fast food anymore. But like I have to try the Grimace shake.
Right?
I tried. It tastes like if you've ever been down south. There's a place called Stuckey's,
Yep.
and they sell taffy there. They have blueberry taffy. It tastes like Stuckey's blueberry taffy. Is the
All right,
way.
I'm out. Blueberry doesn't really sound appealing to me in a shake, but
It,
I don't know, maybe
it's, a,
be all right.
it's a blueberry shake. They're just calling it berry because I think if they call it blueberry, people will be like, "Well, why is it purple?" It's like,
It's
yeah, but
purple, right?
yeah, because blueberries kind of actually are purple, but yeah, like just bring them back. Come on, like when's like Hamburglar's birthday or Birdie's birthday or something? Like,
Right?
just keep
We could
bringing
do
them
a
back.
celebration every other month. I wouldn't be mad about that.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. Make a new item. Like I guess Birdie would get like a what breakfast item. She was the early bird, and Hamburglar would get like a special burger or something.
Right?
Mayor McCheese can come back. And Captain Crook can come back, and they'll release a new fish sandwich that nobody will buy. So, but
Oh,
yeah, I didn't
yeah,
know they were doing the Happy Meals. That's cool. They're doing Happy Meals.
yeah. So I can't remember when I saw that. I can't remember what the girl toy is that's paired in with them, but I know they said that was coming, and it'll probably be like way closer to the release of the movie. But it's cool that we are like we kind of are into our final countdown. I think we're only gonna by the time this one goes out, I think we're only gonna have one episode between here and the episode where we actually cover the movie, which is really cool.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's either like
There might
one
be
or
three
two
away
more.
at this point. So
Yeah, I think it's two more episodes, and then we'll talk about the movie because I think the movie comes out in between weeks where we do an episode.
yeah, it does. Now that I think about it, yeah, we'll have two more recording sessions before then. But it's something that we've been talking about ever since we started the podcast. I think it was literally one of the very first things we did talk about. So it's
Yeah,
cool. Like we're finally really starting to see the big push for this. We're starting to see Target had their end cap that got put up. Walmart just had their huge center aisle display come out, and it was actually what store was it that got the first push of merchandise? I can't remember. I sent you a picture. It was a really weird. So Kohl's, I think,
oh,
got the first push. So
oh,
yeah, this stuff is out everywhere right now, and it is just really cool to see.
yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I guess like I'm paying attention to Turtles more, so maybe other kids' movies do get pushed this hard. But to me, it just feels like this movie's being pushed like harder than any other kids' movie has this year. But like Mario had a huge push, so
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe it's not, but like to me, I'm noticing it because it's like I was even in Five Below the other day, and they had like a big activity book of like all this stuff from Mutant Mayhem and backpacks and stuff. So it's like it's getting pushed in just about every store, just about every type of item. And to me, that's awesome because that's the way kids' movies were when we were kids. Like there was, if you wanted to collect all the merchandise for like a Disney movie from the early 90s, you will never collect it all because it's like they made every item you could possibly own with those characters' mugs slapped on it. So it's like that's kind of what they're doing now. If you wanted to collect every single bit of Mutant Mayhem merchandise, you probably can't. There's so much of it.
I mean, that was the first thing I thought when I saw the display, honestly, because I've already made the conscious decision that I'm not going to buy any of the Mutant Mayhem Playmate stuff. I'm not going to do it because I know I'm going to get it. I'm going to be excited about it for a little bit, and then I'm just going to end up selling it on eBay a few months down the road. So I'm just going to avoid it. Maybe I'll get a raft just to see what one of the figures feels like, but like I'm not doing it. I'm not going in. And you're right, it is just a ton of stuff. Like if you would have gotten one of each of everything that was on the Target end cap. I didn't add it up, but I bet it would be well over a G. Like, I bet it would be worse than the really bad Holothon we just had not too long ago.
Probably because the Targets by me actually have multiple end caps. They have like the action figure one, which has, you know, the regular Playmates figures, the plus size, like talking Playmates figures or whatever. It has like Funko Pops. It has, I think, like some plush. No, then there's a separate end cap that has plush toys. They have the Bebop and Rocksteady plushes. Yep. Then they have the real tall turtle plushes. Then they also have like the plush like chair, the little like kid chair that looks like Leonardo and stuff. And it's like,
yeah, I haven't even seen that yet.
Oh, okay. And then like near the toy and in the toy end cap, they also have mixed in a bunch of stuff. Like they have the mutating turtles from the old Playmate stuff. They have like the storage shell turtles. They have some NECA 2-packs thrown in there and stuff. So like there's a lot of turtles at Target right now. But then also like, yeah, you go into the kids section, the clothes, they have t-shirts of it, and they have like, you know, backpacks for it and stuff. And like they have posters for it and food products for it. And it's like, there's going to be Happy Meals for it. It's going to be so much stuff. It's like there might be some of this merch that just gets lost to time. That like 10 years down the road, someone will be like, "Hey, do you remember that Lifesavers or something had like a Ninja Turtle package when that movie was new?" And like maybe I'm not saying Lifesavers do, they don't, but it's just like something like that. Like someone might be like, "Did you even know this product existed when this movie came out?" Kind of thing. Because I mean, you look at something like The Lion King, and it's like how many freaking products had Simba's face on them, like when that movie was new, or Timon and Pumbaa or something on it. Like they made every product under the sun for that movie. So it's like, that's kind of what I feel like this is like. I think it's exciting for Turtles fans because by nature, most of us are collectors. Like most people who like Ninja Turtles like collecting things, specifically things that are related to Ninja Turtles. But I think a good word of caution to people our age, who we all have this problem that we just buy all this dumb stuff, is don't buy into it. like only if you really, really feel like you need these. Like if you really like these designs, you really like this movie when it comes out or something, I'd say then go in. But like, there's too much to collect. You'll overwhelm yourself. You'll waste a bunch of money, and then most likely in like a month or two, you're going to be like, what do I do with all this crap now? Like, you're going to have so much crap in your house. I've debated getting the plush Bebop and Rocksteady. I had to be like, dude, you don't need that. Like you'll probably, your dog will probably just end up chewing them up by the time you're done. You'll just give them to him because you don't care. It's like, it's just hard. I know, like, it's in our code to like want to collect things with the Ninja Turtles on them. But like, unless you really want to, I think like try to fight it, because let kids get it. Kids will love it and enjoy it, hopefully. Because if not, like, we're probably just collecting stuff we don't need if we're going crazy trying to get every one of the 5 million products with Mutant Mayhem written on it. Yeah, for stuff that's not action figures, really for me, I'll only grab it if it's vintage stuff. Like I got, when I was in Sleepy Hollow this past Halloween, there was like a street fair they did in Tarrytown. And they had like a vintage, like Secret of the Ooze lunchbox that had like a drawing of Super Shredder on the docks and stuff. Like I picked that up because it's like, that's something from my childhood. Even though I didn't own that lunchbox, it's something from my childhood. It's something that reminds me of my childhood. I collect vintage turtle stuff over anything else. So it's like, I understand that.
Yeah.
Action figures, I'll get newer stuff. But when it comes to like products like that, I'm only going to buy it for like the 87 like era of Turtles, really.
Yeah, because the one thing that would get me though, and I was thinking about this when we were talking about like just all the general stuff that got pushed in the 90s. The one thing that they don't do anymore that I really missed is collector's cups. Like McDonald's would always do things with collector's cups, and even places when I probably would have been, it was whenever the second Iron, yeah, exactly, stuff like that. That's stuff that I really miss.
Yeah,
when Iron Man 2 came out, I lived by a 7-Eleven, and we'd go there like multiple times every day. They'd give us free fountain pop. It was a pretty sweet deal. But they had Iron Man collector's cups then. I remember me and my roommate got those.
I have one of those.
Yes, dude. I love those things. That's what we always went back and got our refills in. And that's actually the last time I remember seeing a collector's like cup like that. It's probably because I don't pay attention the way I used to, but I don't remember anything since then.
Yeah, I have one, just the one of Iron Man himself from Iron Man 2. They did them for Thor also. I
Okay.
remember 7-Eleven did the Thor ones. I think they did it. I want to say they did it for Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man 2. Maybe they did it all the way up to the Avengers. I don't remember. I don't know if they still, maybe they just did Guardians 3 ones. I have no idea. But like, yeah, collector's cups are gone. And I remember, in the 90s, they did like Last Action Hero cups and at like Taco Bell, I think, or something.
Right.
And it's like anytime they got a property, not only did they get toys, they also got like cups. And in the 90s, in the 80s, they were nicer. They were like, I just showed a Pac-Man one from like 81, I think it's from. And they were like glass, like actual glasses you could use at home, like reuse. But in the 90s, they were more like plastic cups usually, but they were still awesome. I don't even know what the ones at 7-Eleven were. They were kind of like a vinyl almost. They were a little sturdier than regular plastic.
Yeah, they were dishwasher safe. I mean, that's the only place I ever put mine. It always turned out fine and never really jacked it up. So they were a solid cup. And yeah, I don't know why, but that was like one of my favorite things was collector's cups. And even like I still have a couple of my Pocahontas ones from McDonald's. You remember those ones? Like I still have them. When my parents were cleaning out the cabinets, they saved all that crap for me because they know I would want it, and they were dead right. So yeah,
I mean, yeah, I miss those. There's just I know there's other things they used to do that they just don't do. There was just such a big push back then, and I know some people say that was like the problem with properties like Ninja Turtles and stuff. Is like, oh, it was just a big commercial, and it was just about making products, and there was just evil corporations taking advantage of children. It's like, but I loved that. I wanted them to take advantage of me. I wanted to get as many products as I could possibly get. Like, I just loved the Ninja Turtles. I wanted as many things with those characters on them as I could get. I remember being a fan of something. That's what it's like. And I remember it sucked because when I was still a kid, but a little older, I got into things that didn't really get merchandised. It sucked being into something because like I wanted action figures, I wanted cups and stuff, and it's like you're never gonna get it because it's not like the same tier of a product. Like when I got really into like the Mega Man X games. Like you're not gonna find Mega Man merchandise in the 90s in America. Like you're not gonna find that. Yeah. So like there was like certain stuff you just weren't gonna find. It sucked. Like I love being into something and getting 5 million stupid products to go along with it.
That's how you know the success of your brand. If you can take a child and make their entire bedroom around one IP, that's how you know it's a kick-ass IP. You know what I mean? Like that's how you know that IP made it. So it is. Mega Man was a good example because I was gonna say like anything manga or anime that it's hard to get a lot of stuff in America outside of Dragon Ball Z, especially for action figures. You're always going to be getting imports and like things like One Punch Man. There's like no action figures out there for it. Yeah. I really, really want some action figures for that. So I'm with you. I think I would rather be over marketed to than under marketed to any day.
So at least when they over merchandise, it's like you don't have to get it all. That's where the sickness comes in. And sometimes you think you do, but you don't have to get it all. I'd rather be over merchandised too. So it's like, okay, I have the choice to get that stuff.
Exactly.
But I don't have to get it. But the sickness is bad. I mean, I will say like that is where their arguments can be a little valid. Is like sometimes if we really start to like a property, we find ourselves in a position where like, we can't say, like we were saying, if we see the Turtles logo on something, it's hard to say no to it. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Like I was at Target yesterday or 2 days ago. And, I've said on my channel, I love the Little Mermaid. I was there. They had like 15% off like beach blankets. They had a Little Mermaid beach blanket there. And I grabbed that shit. I was like walking around the store like I was going to buy it. And at some point, I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You're not going to use this. Like, why are you buying this? I'm like trying to rationalize it. Like, well, in summertime, I'll put it in my bedroom and stuff. And it's like on the floor. It's like, dude, what are you doing? And I just like put it back because I'm like, I don't need this crap. Like, so yeah, it's like, it's bad, man. So I can't tell you how many times I walked around stores with like Turtles merchandise ready to buy it. And then like someone had to be like, dude, you don't need this. Like, you're never going to use this. This is going to end up in a closet somewhere. And it's like, yeah, I guess so. And you just eventually have to put it back. But it is tempting. So I can see people's arguments, both ways, where I can see that people are like, for our argument that like, we'd rather have the option to get merchandise than to not have the option because it helps you enjoy the IP more. But I can also see people's argument that like, having all that merchandise is taking advantage of the fact that you like this IP to get money out of you. So it's like a, you know, double-edged blade, I guess.
Yeah, so I've done the same exact thing many times where I'm walking around with something and I'm literally just it's almost like holding it makes me feel better. And then I'm like, okay, I've had this in my possession and now I can let it go. You know what I mean? Like I had to kind
Exactly.
of try it on, feel it out a little bit. I'm like, oh, okay, I like this way it feels. Maybe I will take it home with me. And I've done that many a times. And also, it's just another part of the sickness where you're in the store and you see something and you're like, well, I better grab this now so somebody else doesn't grab it when I'm walking around. So, and again, with that towel, it was probably there forever. But with turtle stuff, you could turn your back and it could be gone. So,
Yeah.
um, but
Yeah, a mass produced towel meant for little girls is gonna be made there. It's gonna be a lot more abundant than like some collector action figure that's like just
right?
two on the peg and that's it.
Yeah, but that's kind of
Honestly,
like it is just the beauty of this moment right now, though. Like some people are very, very, very excited about these mutant mayhem figures, and again, it's not like I don't think they're completely trash or anything. But like I said, I only have so much money. I decided I'm not going to go down that road. There's a lot of NECA crap that just came out right now that I wanted, so I focused on that. And it's just great that everybody does have these options, and I do think so. I don't know how I want to say this. Like as a community, I think we may overhype ourselves to a dangerous level, though, to where people do almost make things seem more exciting than they actually are. And again, I'm not trying to freaking like rain on anybody's parade, but I really do feel like that's how a lot of the mutant mayhem stuff is going to be, unless it does get a huge ongoing series that ends up becoming a hit down the road. Like I really do feel like 3 months after the movie comes out, you're going to see a lot of the figures probably start to go up for sale.
yeah, I think so. You're gonna see them on a lot of clearance racks and stuff like that. I think. I mean, who knows? If the movie's really, really big, Turtles has just always been so synonymous with toy collecting that like it might spark like a new big line. But yeah, I think realistically, a bit like you said, about 3 months after, maybe like completely like after Christmas, like in the new year, they'll probably like really be on like just clearance shelves and stuff. But
Well,
regardless,
honestly,
yeah, I think it's cool.
the way my end caps look, though, I mean, and yes, these are going to be available everywhere, but I feel like this first round of stuff is probably going to go pretty quick, honestly, because I know the Target was the first place in my town to really get anything, but a lot of stuff was already gone by the time I got there. And I'd imagine I got there within 24 hours of it hitting the shelf.
Yeah, actually, real quick, I just wanted to add to when we're talking about like where you feel like you had the item for a bit. You can put it back. I've actually taken photos of the item sometimes to be like, "There, I got you," and then like put it back. You know, like,
Just like what's the Pokemon Pokedex? Like you got your
yeah,
picture of it, I caught it. Even if you release it, you
exactly,
still caught it at one point.
exactly. That's what it is. But yeah, so I have to say these figures are flying fast though, because this first wave has the four turtles, Bebop, Rocksteady, Superfly, and Leatherhead. I think is the first wave of
That
figures.
sounds right.
I've only seen the turtles. The pegs for the other characters are empty. So people are buying because they definitely produce more of the turtles. So people are buying these already.
Yeah. Which again is cool. It's good that they're not just warming right off the bat. And especially because I felt like a lot of people were going to be more of my mindset where they're going to focus on more the adult collector stuff. But again, some people are just blasting from both barrels right now. And it's just becoming a lot at this point. Because again, like switching gears kind of to the NECA stuff, NECA just had a modest drop for what they've been
Yeah.
doing as of late. 'Cause especially if we're just talking about the Toon stuff in general, it was only a few figures, but they dropped the four Lawson Turtles, they dropped the Splinter, and then they dropped the Toon April, the Genghis. Is it Genghis? I can never remember.
Napoleon, the big
Napoleon.
Napoleon.
They dropped the giant Napoleon, and then they dropped the Bugman and Electro Zapper pack. So those are all I really focused on when I was there. And the Splinter was already gone. I ended up ordering him online, but everything else I did find on the shelf, which was really nice. So I guess they did the Battle Damage Shredder 2 and then the IDW Color Classics version of the Foot Soldier, but I'm passing on both those. So
Yeah, they I got the Bugman and Electro Zapper 2 pack. I haven't found April or the Giant Napoleon yet. Um, I got the Invisible Man Donnie and the Phantom of the Opera Casey recently and stuff.
nice.
Those are awesome.
Yes,
Uh,
I haven't opened up my Donnie yet. I found him so that I told the grocery store that we have in these 5 states, Meyer. I found it there, so I'm really excited to see what kind of figures they're going to end up getting. I'm really excited they got a collector section.
yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, they put out a good deal of stuff. I missed Jaguar from the Archie one. I'm still pissed about that. I want to find him.
I
Uh,
think he's been available online actually.
oh, is he? I might
I
just
think you can
grab
just
him
straight up
there.
order him on Target.com.
Okay, I'll probably just do that then. Yeah, they dropped a good deal of stuff. I mean, they also dropped a lot recently for other brands, like other things they do. Like they've dropped some more horror ones and stuff. Like some of the Toonie Terrors. They did one for like They Live that I want, and I got the Teen Wolf one they did and stuff. But yeah, it's one of the most modest drops they've done in recent years because usually they drop like over $1,000 worth of stuff just in Turtles alone. So
Right.
it was pretty. It's manageable, you know. I'll find, and they've been everywhere. I'm still finding, like, Rocksteady and Bebop's gang in the stores. I'm still finding like people from Haulathon. I'm still finding. I don't find Mona Lisa anywhere. She's gone.
Yeah.
But every now and then I'll find Shakahachi and Lotus. I'll find Rex One pretty frequently. I'll find the goons all the time. Like Rocksteady and Bebop's gang are just everywhere, especially Tall Thug and Short Gangster. Like they're just there's usually 2 or 3 of them at every Target I
Hmm.
go to. So like I think honestly, like it just seems like most of what came out in Holothon was not like a huge hit with audiences. I guess Mona Lisa was like and Dirk Savage because they're gone. Like as soon as Holothon was over, they were gone. But basically everyone else, I still see the Red Ronin in stores, honestly. Everyone else basically seemed like they were just, not the biggest hit, I guess. Like they're still abundant. Oh, Zog also from the
Yeah.
Mirage line. He's gone. Like he's not anywhere. I can't find that guy.
So I found mine at Books a Million actually, which is again that bookstore that seems to be regional to my area. So yeah.
Maybe I need to check Barnes and Noble or something. I don't
Right.
know. But yeah, NECA. I don't think they've announced anything new recently. But they dropped a lot of the stuff they announced. I think now we're actually all caught up. I don't think there's any aside from like the Space Usagi and Donnie one and stuff, and potentially like the '87 style Last Ronin and stuff. Like aside from like the What If ones we've seen, I think we got all the actual '87 stuff that they've shown off at this point.
Yeah, plus Electro Zapper, who wasn't shown off until this set
Yeah.
came out. So it, I'm assuming again, we're coming up to that SDCC time. In I always say it wrong. SDCC. Yeah, I always feel like I say 3C sometimes. Yeah, San Diego Comic Con time. So I feel like they're probably going to get ready for that next round of reveals here. I'm very interested to see where they're going to go because clearly there's some figures like Tempestor that haven't been put out yet that I'm really excited for, but we really are getting into the deeper cuts here. And I think that's probably why that last wave didn't move as well and why probably it will start to slow down at this point because they have hit a lot of the major characters. And yeah, everybody's gonna chime in with like, well, I still want this character and I want this character. But at this point, pretty much all of the major staples have been hit. So it'll be very interesting to see what they're going to show us because it really could be anything at this point. I think they're going to start to get into the gangsters. I think maybe we'll start to get some aliens and stuff like that. But I'm really excited to see what variation of the turtles we're going to get next. I'm assuming it's going to be those disguises from season one, the leather jackets and stuff like
Oh
that
yeah.
with the glasses. But yeah, we're really hitting an interesting point with this line now.
I don't know if they're gonna go with all the gangsters and stuff because with how poorly Short Gangster and Tall Thug sold, Dopey and Dumbo, that might be like an opener to them that like, oh, the ones connected to Bebop and Rocksteady from season one aren't even selling. So like why are we gonna release the guy who tickles people with a feather and stuff like it just seems like they might be like, oh, that might not be worth it because if you do regular thugs they won't sell as well because that is the problem. You're getting into this point where even if people remember the characters, they don't care about these characters. We didn't have figures of them as kids. They weren't in merchandise and stuff. Like they weren't when we all would play together as kids. Like, oh, we're gonna play Ninja Turtles. You're like, oh, I'm gonna be Michelangelo. I'm gonna be Mondo Gecko. Nobody was like, I'm going to be Don Tatelli. Like no one said that. Like so we're getting to these points where we're getting these characters that like I think most people just don't remember, don't even know the difference between, or like just don't care about. And I said this when Holothon happened that I saw the decline of the line happening after Holothon. And I hate to say that, it sounds so pessimistic. I love this line, but I feel like the evidence of me being correct on that is already showing. I think the line's going to get easier and easier to collect for the people who really want to, because I think less and less people are collecting it at this point.
I think so too. I think the big hits are going to be whatever redos of figures they do. Like you said, I'm assuming the April probably came to your store and it was already gone. She sold
Yeah.
out online. I'm pretty sure the fastest out of everything that went up. So I feel like if they do a new shredder, people would probably go ape shit for that. People are always going to want whatever set of turtles get put out. But yeah, as far as the characters are going to go, it's just going to be, I mean, less and less because these last two waves were finally we're hitting characters that I don't recall without looking it up.
Yeah.
And honestly, I thought it was going to be a long time before we got to that point, but it is just there's just so many forgettable characters that if you're not reminded of them, you would have forgot you ever existed and they ever existed. And there's sometimes I can't even remember if I've seen these episodes because I know at one time or another every DVD has played through, but I just don't recall any of these characters.
Yeah.
Should say any of the characters, but like Electro Zapper, the giant Genghis episode, I don't really remember that one. And yeah, like
Yeah.
so
We were both agreeing before we started recording that like neither one of us even remembers the episode where Napoleon gets all big. And it's like neither one of us really remembered Electro Zapper. And we know we've both seen that episode multiple times. I've watched through the first 4 seasons more than any other seasons of the show. Both the Bugman episodes are in the 4th season. So I remember Bugman existing. But I like Electro Zapper. I went back and checked it out. He is such a major part of that episode, and for some reason, like I just don't remember him.
I don't remember much happening after he transforms. That's like the last thing I remember. I cannot recall anything after that.
You know what's cool? I had to look up before I even went back and checked the episode. I had to look up like what is this neon green chain he comes with? I don't remember this, and it's like Mike finds him in it at the beginning of the episode, but it's basically like kryptonite. It's like his weakness. And it's called Leastonite, like Stan Lee. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't remember Electro Zapper. The only thing I can say though is like in the show and even on the box art for the action figure, he is very clearly wearing red and blue. But for the action figure, they made it red and gray. And I don't know why they did that, but they completely changed his color scheme for the action figure.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that. I got him threw him in my cart, threw him in my shelf, and I haven't opened him up yet. So yeah, I haven't even noticed.
He's not the most exciting character. The only thing I can say is he comes with a bunch of really cool like lightning effects. So I have him like pointing and zapping one of his fingers, but then the even bigger one has like a peg on it. I was able to plug it into like robotic Rocksteady's like arm cannon, so like he's blasting it now. So
Nice.
you can kind of use all of his effect parts with other toys, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, because after I get this stuff rearranged back here, I'm gonna have a ton more room for my Toon figures. That's what I'd like to do is be able to get them spread out a little bit more, and maybe I can utilize some of that stuff then. So
Yeah, mine are not spread out
at
all. Yeah.
Yeah, so even if we get shown new figures at Comic-Con, we're probably not going to end up seeing any new Toon figures until fall at the earliest. So I imagine sometime between now and whenever the next wave comes out, I feel like that's probably when they're going to put up the first section of the sewer layer would be my guess. I feel like that would be the perfect timing for that.
Yeah, I would say probably. Oh, you know what character I know is coming? Nobody wants her, but she's definitely coming because she's been on the box art. And they did with Tiffany they have like a little framed picture of her. April's aunt is gonna get a figure.
Yeah, you knew she was coming eventually.
Yeah, like what a boring character to get a figure. But
so also with Donnie's portal generator, it's got the
Og.
Yep, and Easter Bunny.
We're getting some bad characters soon.
Yeah, so again, because we're getting down to the nitty gritty here, there's not really a lot left to work with. So the packaging figure that I'm still the most interested in is the Savage Dragon they made. I'm still very, very intrigued by that one and what's going on there.
Yeah. As for like Og and like the Easter, I don't give a shit about the Easter Bunny. I don't. Og at least is like funny to have. Like I would like to have him just for the irony of having an Og figure. But like the Easter Bunny and like I know we're getting April's. We got like the Maltese hamster with the new April and stuff. Also, it's like they're really like setting her up.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we're getting to those kinds of characters, like they're not going to be able to hold me that much longer. Probably, I think honestly, they probably are going to have to bust out with Lord Dreg soon because people at least remember him as like a big deal, and he's like
Yeah.
intimidating looking, and he looks like an action figure as opposed to like 60-year-old woman in a pink suit. So I think like, yeah, they're gonna have to go. They can't just, sell a bunch of Murder She Wrote characters as Ninja Turtle toys for a long time. They're gonna have to move on to like more of like the aliens and monsters and stuff to really keep people invested. And I don't know if I don't think the Red Sky season monsters and aliens are able to keep the line afloat. So maybe I'm being really pessimistic, but I do see an end coming soon, honestly.
I mean, all things have to end eventually. You know what I mean? This line isn't just going to go forever and ever. It does have a finite amount of stuff they can draw from. And honestly, that's where I am just drawing the line. I'll get whatever random crap they want to put out, 1 through 7. I'll get that. But I'm just going to draw the line at the Red Sky because, again, even Dreg was probably in way more episodes than any character they have left to do. Carter was probably in way more episodes than any
Yeah.
character they have left to do. But I just don't care about them. And I understand that I probably don't care about April's aunt either or Electro Zapper, but it's still just, I don't know. For me, I guess I'm just making up my own rules, but that's just kind of where I'm going to cut off. But I do feel like the shark moment hasn't happened yet. It's coming. Like the shark is eventually going to get jumped. Like they've done a really good job of pacing this line out and stretching it out. But I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they are just going to like start from the beginning and give us new sculpted turtles, new sculpted Shredder. They've already shown new sculpted Bebop and Rocksteady, new sculpted. They're probably going to do a Casey since they just put that out. But I don't know. I can't imagine NECA is just going to like give up on this line willingly because I would have to imagine it is their best selling line. I can't imagine anything else being bigger than the NECA Toon line for them.
Yeah, I do think honestly what they're going to dip their feet in the most is probably these what if figures. Because I think there was a lot of hype for that Last Ronin figure shown off. People went nuts for that. And people were already very interested in the Usagi one. So I think if they see enough people really want that, they might be like, you know what, rather than making Carter, how about we just start making like Tatsu in the 87 version or something, or Kino in the 87 version, or, Armagon in the 87 version or whatever. Like they might start doing that kind of stuff more.
Yeah.
We'll see. I really don't know, honestly.
And I guess the last piece of action figure news would be the Comic-Con exclusive stuff got put out and it got dropped into 3 different days. And the first day did not go well. That stuff sold out in like 3 minutes. That was actually the first time I ever didn't get something when it went up on NECA.com. And I was honestly shocked because I typically don't ever have trouble. So I ended up getting the Turtles 3-pack and the Kino on Thursday. And I guess on Friday, everything was up for a couple of hours, which is nice. But yeah, it's cool that they're still offering the Comic-Con stuff to the regular public because I really thought it was going to get to a point eventually where they were going to stop doing that. So it's cool that you still do have a chance to get that stuff without actually going to Comic-Con.
I really wanted the Kino one, but some people are saying they think that the 2-pack of him and the scooter are still going to be released at retail. It's just all the little bonus stuff that comes with the pizza box and stuff won't come. If that's the case, I'm fine. I just really want that damn scooter. So yeah, I want Pizza Boy Kino with the scooter. If I can still get that without all the bells and whistles, that's fine. Like that's all I want.
I don't know what I want to do because I would like to keep this one in package if possible and see what happens down the road. But you're right. I want to display him with the scooter as well. So if they put out a Kino that doesn't have a scooter, I'll probably open that one up. But I think I'm going to hang on to it in package for the time being to see what happens. But it just is like, we don't get a lot of accessories like that from NECA. So
yeah,
chance I actually have to get one, and it's ridiculous too. It's just a little white moped, you know what I mean? Like it's such a cool accessory.
Yeah, like Super 7 will do those sometimes. Like the Thundercats, they had what's her name, the Huntress girl. She came with like her big crazy bike thing and stuff. Yeah, NECA doesn't really do vehicles a lot, honestly. But speaking of Super 7 and vehicles, while NECA's announcing all this cool stuff and putting all this stuff up for sale and putting all this stuff in Targets, Super 7 announced, hey, look, we're retooling the Turtle Van for like the 5th freaking time. And
Yeah,
you brought it to my attention. I didn't even know. they delayed wave 6 again, or what was wave 6?
Wave 7.
Wave 7 of TMNT again. So like you said to me in the comments, I'm never getting my damn Gorilla. Like,
No, it's crazy how far that one got pushed back again. We saw they were showing prototypes in March of 2022, and now they're supposed to hit March of 2024. That is insane to me. 2 years, because I'm assuming they were probably put up for pre-order probably 3 months before that. So we're talking like 2.25 years before it's all said and done with this wave, and maybe it'll get pushed back again. Who knows?
maybe it'll just never happen. Maybe it's just never coming out.
It really does kind of worry me though a little bit that they just. I mean, it's a long time we're going on radio silence with nothing new TMNT being shown. And
Yeah.
I mean, they can't just keep announcing waves without putting anything else. But I feel like they've really they've put themselves in a hard place here with TMNT.
They really have. They've gotten. I'm not trying to crap on Super 7, but like they've really just created some bad faith with their fan base. Like it's hard to get excited for their products because you don't even know if they're ever going to be real anymore and stuff. And it's like they just keep telling you we're going to make this and this and that. We're going to do all this crazy stuff. But it's like you're on a date and like your date is trying to like win you over. Like freaking It's a Wonderful Life. Oh, you want the moon? I'll lasso the moon for
Right.
you. It's like you can't actually do that. Like, that's what it kind of seems like. It's like you're making me all these big promises. Like, oh, we're gonna give you Triceraton and all this crazy stuff. It's like, but will you? Will you actually? Because you keep delaying it, and you're like, I don't know. I don't know what's happening with that line. We'll talk more about both Super 7 and NECA next podcast.
This is April O'Neil, Channel 6 News, and you're watching the Party Wagon Podcast.
I think it's time to move on from toys and get into the main topic of this video.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to be covering The Last Ronin, and I'm going to give you guys a warning. I forgot to do my homework for this episode. So Brendan's probably going to lead. I definitely remember the meat and potatoes of the story very well. It's more so just going to be what happened in what issue, and I think I even have that broken down pretty well. But I'll let you go ahead and kick things off with just general, like, how do you feel about the Ronin universe as a whole?
So the Ronin verse, see, I feel like an asshole if I come on here and say we're talking about The Last Ronin, the greatest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic ever made, because it's like I'm not a comic guy. I've told you that. Like I've read a chunk of the Mirage, I've read like a few random issues of Archie, and I've read The Last Ronin, and it's hard for me to say that The Last Ronin is better than Mirage because Mirage is so classic and it's so much fun. But it just tells the story so well, I think, Last Ronin. And I love Mirage, but the first couple issues are pretty grounded. Like, yes, they're about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but like the Shredder story, the Baxter story, they're pretty grounded. And then it goes into like Cerebus and like
they get into outer space pretty quick.
Yeah, outer space and Triceratons and the Fugitoid and like Renae and like traveling through space and time and Utroms, and it just gets so insane. It's awesome. I love it. I love the insanity, the just nutty nature of it. But as far as like storytelling goes, The Last Ronin tells its story a little better than like the spastic, like crazy way that Mirage was told. But I love Mirage for what it is. But I think just objectively from like telling a story, making like an experience, I think The Last Ronin is the best I've seen in comics for Turtles. Again, I've never read Image. I've never read regular IDW. I think one of the things that's so good about it is gritty, it is dark, it is edgy, but it's like the most emotional version of the Turtles I've ever seen. Like I read it when it was new, the book, and then I reread it recently. And even rereading it, like I already know what's going to happen. I've already read it, but it's like, there's some scenes that actually like choke you up a little bit when you're reading that comic. Oh, we're not going to dive into them just now because I guess we can go through like book by book. There's only 5 books, so it's like, but there's some moments in there, especially some of the flashbacks and stuff. And I think most of all, like the final moment of the whole comic before like the little bonus scene at the end, that like it honestly, especially as a Turtles fan, it kind of chokes you up because it just like, I guess for multiple reasons. I guess like it almost reminds us of our own mortality, but it also like how our favorite characters are kind of just as mortal as we are. And these are characters we grew up loving as kids, and now you're watching them have to face like the the horrible realities of life and stuff, and but still just like how close they are and how much they love each other through the whole thing. And it's just like I don't know, it's very emotional. It's a very emotional comic.
I think it is too. And I feel like it's one of those things where I'm just so attached to these characters that I feel like you have to have some of that to really, really, really appreciate this book. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if you were just a casual comics fan, I think you get more out of it as a Turtles fan than you do a comic book fan. Like, I feel like this
Yeah.
really is just like a love letter to Turtles fans. Eastman wrote this, who wrote the original Mirage stuff. So it does feel very in tone with the Mirage stuff. I feel like I really do feel like it's a continuation of that. And I don't know. I feel like he does a great job of keeping the same tone. You know what I mean? Because a lot of
Yeah.
times, like people evolve a lot over times, and I'm not saying this as a criticism, but I feel like Eastman really hasn't a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I feel like he's still doing things the same way, just tweaked that he was in the '80s. Like Eastman's art still looks like Eastman's art. And I guess to an
Yeah.
extent, like Rob Liefeld's art still looks like Rob Liefeld's art, but his modern stuff looks a lot different than his older stuff. And I don't feel like it's that as much with Eastman. Like I feel like, I don't know, he's always done things very consistently and hasn't really strayed far from that. And to me, I appreciate that because it's comforting. You know what I mean? Like it does
Yeah.
make it feel like it's these same turtles that I know from the Mirage comics, and it doesn't feel like my cartoon turtles, you know what I mean? Like it does feel more like the Mirage turtles or the comic turtles. Like it feels like turtles from a grittier world. And
Yeah.
it reminds me a lot of Logan, honestly. Like I feel like
Yeah.
it's like the same vibe. Like you come into this world that you love, but it's not the world you love. It's this dystopian future. Everybody's dead except for this one person that's really focusing on. You see glimpses of people that you knew from the past that make appearances, but nobody's the same. Like everybody's has either a chip on their shoulder, they're just beaten down from war or whatever. And it is. It's like I've said before. It's not a fun read. You know what I mean? You're not
Yeah.
reading this comics like, oh, this is a great time. You're reading this like, fuck, this is a bummer. And I
Yeah.
feel like if you don't feel that, you're not really gonna get what this comic is trying to do.
I think real interesting. I just want to jump back to something you said. You said how you think of this as a continuation of Mirage, because I think that's an interesting thing to mention, because they said when releasing it that this is its own universe. It's not a continuation of anything. But I always think the same way. It feels like Mirage. Like Baxter's still a human. Well, debatably in this one, but he never turned into a fly. Fugitoid is a friend of the turtles. They remember who he is and everything. Like it seems like it doesn't have like mentions of anything from anything else, like Bebop and Rocksteady or something. It's clearly not IDW or anything. Like it really seems like it's just Mirage. It seems like it easily could have taken place in that world. It really feels like to the point where when you have the Kevin Eastman art sections, I just feel like I'm reading a Mirage comic again. Like it feels like I'm just going back, like, oh, this is some lost one from the 80s I never saw or something. That's like what it feels like. So I really think more than anything, it feels like the tone of the 87, not the 87, I'm sorry, the Mirage comics. But I will say in the end, when they're spoilers, after the Ronin dies, after Michelangelo dies, and he has like his, the spiritual moment with like, his family and Casey Jones and stuff, they're a lot more, I don't want to say like the 87 Turtles, but they're very jokey and immature, more so than the Mirage ones usually were. They're like accusing each other of farting and stuff like that. And Casey Jones is like, well, Raph, like he who smelt it dealt it and all this stuff. And it's like, it's a little goofy. So it's like, I kind of like that. Even if like, say you're not familiar with Mirage, but you still love the franchise, it can still be your Turtles in your head if you want it to be. Like, it's kind of just, I think more so than anything like the Mirage Turtles, but I think it's also designed in a good way where it can be anyone's Turtles, really. Like if you watch the 2003 cartoon, this could be your Turtles or something. So I think it's good in that like any Turtle fan from any generation can enjoy this story. As long as you've loved Ninja Turtles at some point, I think this story is going to appeal to you.
Yeah, because you're pretty right on that one. Like it really could. You could see this as the end, except it just for one. The 87 is just the one thing, or the 87 cartoon is just the one series I don't see it being a continuation as. But
yeah,
yeah, it does. It just fits good everywhere, and
It's a sequel to the next mutation.
right? But for me, I'm actually surprised that I like these books as much as I do because I typically hate the ending of anything. Like I hate watching the last season of a TV show and the last episode especially. I hate it. The reason I get anxiety about getting close to the end of the book is because I don't like finishing a book. Same with a video game. When I know I'm getting close to the end, like I do just get this anxiety about it being the end. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's really some sort of metaphor with the way I feel about death in there somewhere, guaranteed.
probably. Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like feel like it is just a good ending point as far as ending points go. Like I feel like ending a story can be very hard and a lot of people aren't going to be happy with it. And technically it is a soft ending, but it's just
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, I'm very accepting of how they wrapped everything up. Would I have done things a little bit different? We'll talk about that later when we get into certain things, but as a
Yeah.
whole, I'm okay with this being I can consider this like the official canon ending to the Turtles for me.
Yeah, I could too. I think while I love the story and I do love a lot of the tragic elements of the story, it's almost a little too hard for me to say this is a definitive canon ending for any kind of turtles because it's like aside from Mikey, they all die really young. So it's
Yeah.
like you like to think that like they were the turtles for a long time, not that like right after we stopped following them, they like all of them except one died. But yeah, no, I think it is a really good, canonical ending for the Turtles. I think if they wanted to do like a modern, more adult kind of movie series, I think this would make a great final movie. Just do like a jump forward kind of like final movie for kind of the way they did Logan for like the X-Men movies.
Yeah.
I think it would be a great ending. I think not all audiences would like that. I think some audiences, especially if you let your kids see it, which you shouldn't because this comic is not for kids. But I think like some people would be devastated by this, but I don't think they do it in like a disrespectful way. I don't think they like, yes, all of the turtles, all of our favorite heroes do get brutally murdered, but it's done in like a very emotionally sensitive way. I think it's done in a very respectful way. We'll talk about each death as we go.
I have an exception there for sure, but
But like they never take the emotion out of it. Like you're mourning these characters with the characters in the comic. I guess we should just jump into each comic now and just talk about each one individually.
yeah. So the first one is it might be my favorite of the five. I'm not 100% sure. First
Yeah.
issue, we kind of jump in and we don't really fully know what's going on. We just see this turtle in some nasty ass water coming up on this freaking like cyberpunk walled off. It reminds me of the beginning of The Running Man. I feel like
Oh,
a little
great.
bit. Like, that's kind of what it feels like to me a little bit.
I love the Running Man. Yeah, I remember this blew up when it first came out because before the comic even came out, there was like I think like a 5-page like demo almost that came out, like a sneak peek. And I remember reading it and like everyone was like, what turtle is this? Like what's going on? Who's he talking to off frame and stuff like that? Like what happened to the world? So it was a very good way to get people hooked. I think this first issue really just gets you hooked immediately. Like I've said before, I don't mean to brag. I'm not trying to say I'm like a psychic mastermind or anything, but I had a hunch it was Michelangelo right from the start. Just because that seemed like the one that would shock you the most. And I had a hunch that the people off camera were like the voices of his brothers in his head. I wasn't sure though. I thought like maybe it's them, maybe it's Casey Jones. I couldn't tell, but I felt like it was probably the brothers, especially the way I don't think they showed it yet there, but I think in the final book they actually show all the voice bubbles are like the colors of the turtles. But yeah, it was just a great way to get you like immediately interested in like what is happening. This is like no other turtle story we've ever had. Yeah, I don't know if I would say it's my favorite, but I think it's definitely the one with the most impact, probably. Actually, I don't even know because everything. Actually, it's hard to say.
It's all pretty impactful,
Um,
yeah.
The whole series is very impactful, but definitely you're right. The first one and the last one are like one story, and it's kind of like in the middle is like we just get to learn about every story that happened from the turtles we loved to this, what's happening right now. and get to know the new characters like Casey Marie and everything. But yeah, it's done really well. I think this is a great introduction. It's the way a movie should start instead of starting with, not to dog on 2007, but we were talking about that last time. We were both saying it starts with like 30 minutes of exposition. And it's like, that's not how you start something. This is how you start something. You start it with explosive action, a bunch of unanswered questions, and then be like, you want to know all this stuff? You want to see more of this action? You want to know what brought us here? You want to know all these missing details? Stay tuned. And that gets you hooked. Like, that is how you start a story, I think.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of, I mean, clearly based off my age, 90s comics. And I would say that is the era where style was more important than story. But I feel like in comics, your style and your images are what should tell the
Yeah.
story. You know what I mean? Like, if you want really, 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 really like good dialogue, good storytelling, like that's what actual novels are for. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, this
exactly.
is an exciting comic, and I feel like especially for the time too, like they're just, I don't know, it just really stood out compared to what else, everything else that was coming out. Like, is Eastman the greatest dialogue writer in the world? No, but can he make a fun kick-ass comic that's like a 90s action movie? Yes, and that's exactly what I got out of this, and that's what I
Yeah.
like about my comics. Like, I want them to read fast like manga, and I feel like that's how this first issue goes. Like, basically, you start off and you're like, okay, this guy's going to do some shit, and then he starts doing some shit, and it just boom, 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 boom from one thing to another in that first issue. And that's what I really like about it is once it got going, I mean, it was just like a nonstop adrenaline fueled like rampage, basically.
Yeah, and that's really what the first and fifth comics are like. I will say the only part in the series, not to jump ahead, but like the contrast with how this starts off. There's a part in book 4 where they go to they're preparing to go and attack Liberty Island where Baxter Stockman is with the Fugitoid. There's just some scenes where there's just 500 word bubbles in a frame. And that's where like you start to lose me a little bit in comics. Not because like, duh, I'm too dumb to read words, but like it's a visual medium. Like
Yeah,
like I want to, yes, I want to read. It's a comic, but I also want to be told the story through the visuals. And that's
yeah,
the only time in the Last Ronin where I feel like it kind of slows down and the visuals don't speak for themselves. It's just people standing around in word bubbles. But aside from that, this whole comic is really good at having minimal dialogue. There is dialogue, but minimal dialogue, and you know exactly what is going on. You feel exactly what the characters are feeling. And this first issue is really good at that. You have Mike's like narration, and he's talking about like how the city got to this state and how the world got like destroyed by like global warming and all this stuff. Like he has that narration, and you have like the spirits of the turtles talking to him and everything, whatever, the phantom turtles in his head. Most of the story is just the action. He's infiltrating the Oroku building with like Oroku Hinoto, uh, Shredder's grandson, Karai's son. He's infiltrating his building, taking out all these, mechanical foot soldiers and everything. All this like back the Stockman tech and everything, and like he's planning this attack. Like he's basically trying to do the finale in the beginning of the comic. He's like trying to start the comic with the finale, and it obviously doesn't go his way, but it's just a thrilling, like action-packed intro. It almost reminds me, funny enough, is like Planet Earth, like the nature
yeah,
programs with David Attenborough. Before they released season 2, they released this short of this lizard just outrunning like a million snakes just chasing him. And people got so hyped. They're like, oh my God, go, 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 go. And people are just like rooting for this little lizard. And that's what this comic feels like, ironically, both reptiles, but it's like we don't know the context yet, but we're just like, oh shit, this guy has to accomplish what he's trying to accomplish. We're rooting for him, like, go, go, take out all the machines, get to the final guy, like the do your thing. And he doesn't get to, he falls like off the top, like out of the top of a building, and he survives, and we find out why later on in the series. But it is just like this really, really adrenaline pumping way to start out this comic. And which is interesting because most of the comic is actually not too action heavy, and the flashbacks are a little action heavy, but it's not your most action packed Ninja Turtles story. But it's a great way to get you into the story, is with that kind of action at the beginning and the end.
Yeah, and that's what I really like about that first issue is it is pretty much all action. Like you're getting your dialogue and stuff like that, but you're still very confused about what's going on. It hasn't really started to cram in any exposition or anything like that. And like you said, you're just rooting for him this whole time because clearly like he's out for blood, you know what I mean? Like he's not this is the hardcore version of Turtles where they're killing people. And even when he realizes that the Sinjas are part human, that still doesn't stop him, you know what I mean? Like he is on a rampage. And yeah, so Roko Hiroto is actually who he's going after. And it's interesting that we've been shown this new character, which because I don't think he's ever been anything else. I'm pretty sure this
No,
is what he was created for. Yeah, so and it's Karai's son, not grandson, right? This is Karai's son.
it's Karai's son. Yeah,
Yeah, so this would be Shredder's. Well, again, I don't know if Karai is Shredder's granddaughter or daughter in this one either. So
he calls Shredder Grandpa throughout the. He calls him his grandfather throughout
okay, yeah.
the
So
comics. So.
and that's basically what he kind of is. It kind of reminds me of like a Kylo Ren Vader type situation where he doesn't even really know the person that he's idolizing, but he's kind of doing like a crappier job of being that person. I feel like you know what I mean. Like he is
Yeah,
just more like hasn't really earned his keep as much. Like he kind of got like thrown into his position instead of like earning his power.
the funny thing is though, the difference between him and a character like Kylo Ren is one, good writing, but no, the other difference is he he doesn't so much respect Shredder. He kind of thinks is like Shredder was a screw up and I'm the real deal. Like he's like talking later on, I think in season in issue 3 or 4. I think it's 4. He's on like the rooftop and he's talking to himself. He's like talking about his grandpa. And he's like, "Where are you now, grandpa? You're dead. I'm alive," and all this stuff. And it's like, so he kind of thinks like, okay, you're just a failure. You were like some idea in the past. I made your idea a reality, kind of thing. Like he thinks he's like better than the Shredder and everything. And almost like when he calls, he's like, Oroku Saki, and then he says the Shredder after, almost like he's mocking him, like, "Oh, you were the Shredder." Like
Yeah.
he's like, but he has his own Shredder armor too. But like, yeah, he is such an arrogant prick. Hiroto. He thinks he even says he's a god when he's fighting, Mike at the end. And like he basically just was handed the Foot Clan out of circumstance. It's like, well, your mom's in a coma, your grandpa's dead. You're this little brat is the only one left. So here you go. Here's the keys to the Foot Clan. And it's like that power just went to his head, and he literally runs the whole city, and like they're all at the mercy of this like basically whiny brat.
Yep.
But at the same time, he still has like a level of like dignity and stuff. Like he still comes off as like intimidating. He's not just like a whiny little like I want it this way. Like he's actually a scary, calculated villain. He's just also like a selfish hothead at the same time. So he's a dangerous combination of both. Honestly, he's like the real deal deadly ninja, but he also has no honor.
In Kick Ass, who's the dude that's McLovin? Who does he play?
Honestly, I saw Kick-Ass so long ago.
Okay, that's kind of what it reminds me of his character when he turns evil, though. Just the spoiled rich kid, and his dad dies, and then he kind of takes everything over. That's who he reminds me of right there. Check Kylo Ren. That's who he reminds me of.
But yeah, so Mike fails in this first one. He actually almost does it in this first comic, but
You definitely think it's going to end up in a showdown. Like, I didn't see it
Yeah.
really going that way. I thought he was going to at least get to where he was trying to get to
Yeah.
before, whatever. Because you knew he wasn't going to accomplish his goal in the first issue.
yeah, of course. But yeah, he gets further than I would have expected. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, you'd think there would be an actual showdown, but he gets far, and he just ends up losing. And it's kind of like he just kind of slumps back into the sewers, which I think is actually kind of a nice way to like keep us on the edge of our seats. Like it's ramping up and ramping up and ramping up, and then it's like, ugh, I failed, and you just kind of slump off into the sewers. We're like, what now? Like we need to know what happens next. And then April finds him, and like he wakes up in like April. Well, technically he wakes up in his home, but it's like where April lives now because it's the old turtle den, not the YouTube channel. But it's the old sewer lair. And April and her daughter, who we'll talk about, in the next issue when we talk about it, are living there now and occupying it. And she's still alive, and Mike didn't know she was still alive. And Mike wakes up in her lair. Somehow healed more than he should be from what happened to him, and bickering with the phantoms of his brothers. And then April's like, "Who are you talking to, Mike?" And that's how they end it. And they reveal who the Ronin is, and that's it. They that's where they ended the first issue, and it's like the most hype ending for a comic book I can think of.
Well, so he's also, before this ends, he's actually trying to kill himself at this point.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, he feels like he failed this mission, and like this was it. Like this was basically a suicide mission for him. Like he was gonna go in there. This was gonna be his last stand. He was either gonna get his vengeance or he was gonna die. And he didn't actually die. Like he fell from like a 20-story building and he ends up living, which he didn't expect. So he still wants to basically just be like, okay, I'm gonna go out with honor, I'm gonna go out with dignity, and then he passes out. And then I think that's when, he starts to figure out all the stuff with April. But that kind of moves us into the second book, which for me, like I said, I think the first one's my favorite, but the second one, I feel like kind of hit me the hardest, because this is where like you really start to get into like the tragedy of the story.
Yeah. I will say that just what you were saying there, how he wants to die, which actually comes up multiple times throughout the series, that like he just kind of wants to die at different points in his life. But he can't, is again a very good parallel to Logan, of just like a character who just like, they're just like, life has been such an asshole to me, just let me die, and like it won't let them die. But then like also like it seems like it won't let them die because they have more to do with their lives that they don't realize. Yeah, the second comic is where it starts getting really brutal, and that's where it's like, okay, you're gonna see why Michelangelo turned into this dude. It must have been extra hard for you because this is your favorite turtle. This is your childhood hero. This is Raphael's end.
Yeah, so I didn't expect Raph to be the first death, and that's definitely what I was very bummed about. Because I mean, like, it's just weird seeing a turtle die. You know what I mean? Like, it just really, really, really bummed me out.
Yeah. So the Foot Clan is they're supposed to be on a truce with the Foot Clan.
Yep.
Like, we won't bother you, you won't bother us, kind of thing. And they're coexisting. And then it gets broken, and Splinter gets like almost killed. Casey and April are throwing Thanksgiving for the turtles, and like, they cooked all this food and everything. But then like Raph comes in, I believe, Raph comes in dragging Splinter, or I think no, Raph comes in and clears the table. Then Mike and Don come in dragging Splinter, and he's like super bloody, he's super messed up. They lay him on the table, like there goes all the food. And Raph is just not having it. Raph is pissed. Raph is like saying to Casey, like, come on, we got to go out, make sure Leo's okay. Like Leo's still out there. But Leo comes in and he's like, stand back, Raph. Like we're good. Let's just take care of Splinter here and everything. And while everyone's regrouping, Raph disappears. And that's when he goes out for vengeance.
Yeah, so Raph does his Raph thing, goes out on his own, goes out on his vengeance mission. And this is like essentially the version of what future Mikey was doing as well. Like he was out for blood. He was going to kill Karai. That was his mission. And he just freaking goes through this army of foot soldiers on his way to get there. And he's getting like shot by arrows again. Like he's almost in like this superhuman adrenaline rush state. And I mean, again, we're seeing the turtles at their most hyper violent for sure, which I don't love how it ends, but I love what's going on here. Like I don't know. It's the most like action and excitement that I feel like that's really been in a Turtles book to me.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think this scene and the scene in Japan are the two bloodiest scenes in the series. I think like these are the most brutal. Raph is just slicing through these foot soldiers like they're made out of butter. Like he's just spinning around and like decapitating like 4 foot soldiers at a time. Like they are just in pieces. Yeah, he's like unstoppable for the time. I mean, obviously he's being stopped and he doesn't realize it because he's getting stabbed and shot and everything, and it's gonna catch up to him. But yeah, then he takes on Karai, and they're having a pretty even fight. Which again, I get Karai is a really badass ninja, but like Raph's like it's super muscly mutant turtle. It always kind of feels weird when a human can hold their own that well against the turtle.
And see, that's why I like Karai though, because she can bang with these turtles. You know what I mean? Like she's just that fucking good at karate. And again, Raph is my favorite turtle. Do I wish he would have killed her? Yes, but like this is one of the reasons why I think Karai is a badass.
And it makes sense too, though, because I mean, like I had no problem with the Shredder being a regular human who can hold his own against all 4 turtles and some iterations of the turtles. So it's like, if he's the guy who trained Karai and she's been training ever since then, it's like, yeah, she would be pretty good at handling the turtles actually. But yeah, they just have a brutal ass battle together. They are like just stabbing the shit out of each other. Like they are just getting all kinds of fucked up. They end up falling into the harbor. That's where ultimately Raph dies. And the image is like, just, it's heavy because you don't really like, you see him getting stabbed a lot, but when he's finally officially dead, all you see is his hand like sinking into the water, and then you just see his thigh falling through the water and just getting redder and redder and darker and deeper. And it's like, ooh man, what a chilling way to kill off like one of our childhood heroes. Like it is genuinely like upsetting when you read that part.
Again, if you're not a huge Turtles fan, I can understand how this would just be like any other comic for you. But for me, watching my favorite turtle actually die, like that was probably the most bummed out I've ever been reading a comic in my entire life. Like, because it just is. That's the end. And again, I've accepted this as my canon ending, so that was literally just watching my favorite turtle just sink to the bottom and die. Like it was hard for me. Like I didn't cry or anything. I'm a fucking adult man, but like it hurt. Like it was hard to watch that.
Yeah. I think honestly the only reason Karai doesn't die is you see a bunch of foot soldier hands grab her and pull her out of the water. Whereas like it's like her people were there for her, but unfortunately Raph put himself in a situation where his people weren't there for him. So that's why he died. And it's like,
yeah. Which again, it's kind of fitting because that's what he gets for always running off by himself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it is a very, very poetic way for him to go for sure.
I think, yeah, despite the fact that a lot of people would argue Raph might be the toughest turtle, and even in 2006, they show him beat Leo in a fight, or 2007. I think it's fitting that Raph would die first because he is the like act first and think later kind of guy. Like he is the one who's just a hothead. He just runs into bad situations and doesn't think about it. So I think it makes sense that he would die first, and the one who dies last dies last.
The other caveat here is Raph dies earlier than the other turtles. The other turtles don't die for a little bit later either.
Yeah, which is kind of sad when you think about it, that when all the stuff that's happening in issue 3 and 4 is going on, like they're living with having lost Raph. But yeah, there's more after the Raph scene. Honestly, the Raph scene, it goes by so fast that like most of the issue is actually the other stuff after that, with like, you know, Mike meeting Casey Marie Jones and everything. We'll talk more about her, I guess, in the next issue, because we're going to talk about more about Casey Jones in the next issue. But when they were, you know, at Thanksgiving, getting ready for the turtles to come, April and Casey were talking about how they're going to get married. Like they're going to tell the turtles the news that they're getting married that day. Yeah, so they had a kid together. They had Casey Marie Jones is her name, and she's living with April in the sewers, and she's like heard about the turtles all her life. She's, you know, been in their den for most of her life. She's been surrounded by the photos of them and the teachings of Splinter and all this stuff, and she's been like training in martial arts her whole life. So this is like meeting a legend for her. This is like a little kid meeting Santa Claus or something. It's like you're meeting like this guy you thought was dead. Like you thought you would never see these turtles, and then one shows up. Yeah, I think like Mike's a little, he's not mean, he's not a jerk or anything. He's just a little cold at first. He's not used to like really being around people and stuff. And he's still kind of getting over the shock of the fact that April is alive and all this. So yeah, like it seems like maybe neither one of them is too fond of each other, but you can kind of tell that like she really respects him, Casey Marie and stuff. And he's a little oblivious to that for a while, but yeah, it's kind of a cool dynamic. I kind of like the dynamic between them, honestly. And Casey Marie Jones, she has like her own little team of rebels. One of them was named Scrape. He looks like Barrett from Final Fantasy IX. And but yeah, it's a little like resistance team, a little cliche, you know, like the punk resistance team fighting the power, but it's cool. And yeah, again, we'll talk more about them in the next issue, because although there is a lot of like the characters just talking in this issue, really the focus of this issue is the Raph story. I think other than that, everything else is like, it's mandatory, but it's not the draw for the issue. Even the cover was Raph. So
Yeah, so definitely for issues 2 through 4, that's kind of how I like view them. I feel like it's more the more important stuff is what happened in the past and not as much as what's going on in the future, which is kind of I feel like, without getting too far off topic, the overall issue with this just being like a 5-part miniseries, I feel like they didn't really they couldn't really go through all the past stuff and develop the future stuff as much as they should have. So I feel like the future stuff didn't really. I don't know. I feel like they just didn't really focus on the future stuff enough to really make me care about it as much as I did the past stuff. I feel like, you know what I mean?
yeah, I understand. I mean, I just reread this miniseries just this past week. Even after refreshing my mind and reading it again, it's like I don't remember what scenes in the future happened in what comics, but I remember I completely remember what flashbacks happened in what comics. Because like the future one, it's kind of just the same scene, more or less, just
Yeah.
drawn out over the course of like 4 issues of just like Mikey in the lair with April and Casey Marie, getting to know them. But I think they do the most with Mike and Casey Marie. But again, like her team, I don't know who the hell those people are. I don't really care if Barrett dies. I don't know like a lot about the future. I don't know as much about the future. There's even a bombshell they drop about Casey Marie at some point in the comic, which we'll get to in the next issue, that really doesn't ever go anywhere. That I'm assuming will go somewhere in the Lost Years, but we'll talk about the Lost Years at the end.
Yeah, and that's where I feel like I'm glad they did continue this universe, because I feel like that maybe they were just kind of laying some groundwork, but again, they didn't know it was going to be as successful as it was going to be either. So, but getting into the 3rd issue here, so this is definitely my least favorite of the issue. So
Me too. Yeah,
I did, in my opinion, Leo and Casey did dirty in their deaths. Like I don't know, man. I'm really bummed about the way they die.
they went out honorably. They went out respectfully, but at the same time, they didn't get to like battle. They didn't have like like an epic war scene to die in or anything. They were getting ready to, and then they got blowed up.
Yeah, like it's just, I don't know, man. To me, it just feels like the writers were running low on time, and they're like, "All right, we just got to get them out of here quick." Like I don't know, like it. I feel like all the other turtles got some sort of like honorable showdown, and they got to go down swinging. And this one, I mean, I don't know. I was just very let down by this one for sure.
It starts off like it's going to be an epic comic.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, there's going to be another like crazy battle, like a big war. Because we got Raph is like one guy taking on an army, one-man army versus a real army. This could have been like an actual war in New York kind of story, tragic story. And then, the next one is its own thing, a different type of war. But instead, it's just like a buildup. And then like, I just think of the end of Ernest Goes to Jail. It's like, I came, I saw, I got blowed up. And it's like such an, and especially for 2 characters, it's such an unceremonious way to like get rid of 2 beloved characters, one of which is the leader of the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Man. Like we've said, Leo is not we both love him, but he's not our favorite turtle. He's like our least favorite of the 4, probably. But like Leo shouldn't be done dirty like that. Like he's supposed to be the most like technically superior in combat of all the turtles. He doesn't even get a chance to really show it. He just gets blown up. So
Yeah. So I was a little bit disheartened on that one. And honestly, I can't remember anything else. Like I can't remember what the future storyline is in this book at all either. Like this one stands out the least to me in like almost every aspect, I feel like.
I believe again, like the future storylines bleed together over the issues, even though I just reread them like a day ago or 2 days ago. But I believe this is the one where Mike starts training. Oh no, he does. That's the 4th one, I think, where he starts training Casey Marie. Yeah. This one I think is when he first tells April maybe that like like when were you gonna tell me about like what happened there? She's like, super strong, super fast. That's not normal. Or no, this is issue 4 also. What the hell does happen in the future?
See, that's what I can't. 3 and 4 I have confused, because when does he tell the story about going to the mountains to try to die?
Oh, he does that in 3. He does that.
Okay, that's 3. Okay, so that must be the other part of 3 then that fills in the rest of that then. Yeah, so
yeah.
And that what I really like about that flashback stuff is that Eastman does the art for it, which is awesome.
Yeah, anytime it's a Mike centric flashback, it's like in the Eastman design art style. This is kind of like a heartbreaking part of the story too, where it's like he just goes off into the mountains. He's never even seen the snowy mountains before. Like he said, like even being cold blooded, he didn't think he would survive out there at all. And he really just goes there to die. He just wants to die. He like doesn't eat for like a week or maybe even longer. He says he just lays down and waits to die. And he does it, and then it warms up, and he starts like actually living, off the land. He's like, maybe I can have like a humble existence here in the country. But then a bunch of people show up and call him a monster and want to kill him. Poor Mikey, man. Like he's been through so much at that point. I like when that happens, like you just wish, like, oh man, can you guys just go away? Go screw with another monster. Like just leave him alone. Like, come on. And he ends up, I mean, we don't really see it in this comic in excruciating detail, but from what I know, I haven't read the Lost Years yet. In the Lost Years, we see what really happens there, and that's when Mike really gets like his "I don't give a shit anymore" kind of attitude, like his killer instinct just kicks in. Yeah, it's a really. I honestly think that flashback is more interesting than the Leo and Casey flashback actually in this issue.
Yeah, because it kind of, so we touched on this earlier. We really haven't talked about it much, but basically, what the situation is, it's kind of a plot thread that I think was going to be used for other stories and never really did up to this point. But basically, the turtles' mutations kept happening as they got older. So basically, this entire time that Michelangelo has been alive, he's been getting bigger and stronger and faster to the point where he's almost like he's not completely invincible and invulnerable, but he's, I mean, can endure. Again, he fell out of a 20-story building after already taking a beating and he still lived. So he's at a very, very supernatural level of strength and endurance at this point.
Yeah, he's probably like somewhere in between like he's probably around the Captain America hero serum, super soldier serum. He's probably around there. Like maybe I don't think a little bit stronger. He's probably right around there actually. I was gonna say like maybe somewhere a little above that, but maybe not. But yeah, maybe actually because he can't, like he can die, but he kind of can't. Like he's pretty indestructible, not completely indestructible as we'll see in the comic, but it's like the more he stays alive, the more indestructible he gets, which actually is a shame when you think about it. It's like, well, if his brothers got to live just a little bit longer, they probably would have survived their wounds then because they would have been more invincible also. But yeah, it's definitely the least noteworthy issue, especially as far as the flashbacks go. But issue 4, I think, is really good. Again, I might have some personal bias because I'm a Don fan, but I think actually they don't focus on Donatello that much in it. I think it's just a really well done story. And I think the future stuff is more interesting in that one than in the previous issues also. So issue 4 is not just the death of Donatello, it's the death of Splinter and Donatello.
Yeah, so it's another double one, and they die together. And this one, I don't know, I really just like the scenery and everything that happens. So they're in Japan and they're wearing their paper hats and stuff like that. And basically they just kind of get ambushed, and it's just at the point where there's outnumbered, outmanned, and they can go to the end, but they eventually get brought down in a hail of arrows.
Yeah, so they're there because they're supposed to be discussing like what happened to the agreement that like Foot Clan and Hamato Clan aren't going to fight anymore, and they're supposed to talk to Hiroto about it. I think I called him Hinoto at the beginning of this video, this podcast.
I think you do. That's why I had to double check. So I'm like, did I remember wrong?
Yeah, Hiroto. They're supposed to meet with Hiroto. They get there. He's not even there. He has like some random guards there, and they're like, "Oh, why'd you bring weapons and all this stuff?" And they're kind of questioning the turtles. And Splinter's like, "Well, where's your guy? Like, he's not even here." And then he does show up, and he shows up with more guys, and they're all covered in weapons and stuff. And they basically find out they came there to die, not to make an agreement. Like the Foot Clan's like, "Oh, you actually came? We were just gonna murder you. Like, we weren't expecting you to actually come. You made it really easy." But then Splinter goes like ape shit, and he just like, this is the second like bloodiest part, I think. Like he's just ripping through soldiers, and there's like parts where you just see like he puts his arm back, and there's just like a whole like thing of blood just like flying off. The one thing that kind of bothers me about this though is that it bothers me a little bit. I kind of feel Splinter gets his own son murdered in this scene because there's a part where the archers come out. They bring out the archers to finish it off because they're like, okay, they're just going to kill all our swordsmen. Let's just bring out some archers. And when the archers come out, Donatello says, like, Master, it would be smarter if we like left and regrouped and like, didn't stay here to get rained on by arrows. And he's just like not listening to Donatello, and he just runs in with rage. And it's kind of weird to be like, I guess it shows how wise Donnie is, that he's like more of a wise, collected master in that moment than even Master Splinter. But it is kind of a shame that, like, okay, then he just starts following Splinter because that's what Splinter wants to do, and then Splinter gets both of them killed. So it's like, had Splinter listened to Don, they'd both actually still be alive. Yeah, it's sad, and they get absolutely just like mowed down by arrows.
Yeah,
and
basically like I kind of always picture it as the scene from 300 where the sky is just all arrows and they all get there
Yeah.
too. Like that's kind of how I picture that scene.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. Yeah, it's sad. I mean, it's sad seeing all of them go, and they don't even know that Leo is dead while they're Leo and Casey. They have no idea because this is happening simultaneously. Like they were leaving for Japan before Leo and Casey got killed. So like Mike just lost like everybody in like that 1 week. So like he lost Raph earlier on. That must have been hard. But then it's like, okay, in this week you're losing 4 loved ones, and he thinks he lost April. So in his mind,
Yeah, because April was also blown up as well, right? But she
Yeah.
survived. That's why she has the robot arm and legs.
Yeah, she was in the explosion. We didn't mention that in issue 3, and she actually survived. Yeah, she has a fake arm and a fake leg. You see that in issue 2, but they explain it in issue 3. The flashback in issue 4 is devastating. It's like it's cool though. I really like the way it's done. Like you said, the visuals, like the setting, the lighting, and everything. It feels like, even though they were in black and white, it feels like some like Kurosawa, like samurai.
Yeah,
film.
yeah, it has that real like kind of kung fu style vibe to it. I feel like.
Yeah, you could definitely see that being like a classic kung fu movie scene or something, but like almost like a Kill Bill kind of vibe to it.
Yep.
But yeah, it's really cool. But then the modern stuff. I know, actually, wait, before we jump to the modern stuff, the future stuff, I do have to say I've heard some people didn't like that ending for Don and Splinter, and some people said that one was rushed. I think that one was actually handled really well. I don't understand the hate for that one personally, but
well, and again, like, okay, if we're thinking in realistic terms, this really was a good way to kill all these turtles. You know what I mean? Because clearly, like, they're gonna kick your ass no matter what you do. So doing something that they literally cannot dodge, like putting them in a building and blowing it up, that's a smart way to do it. They're gonna kill your guys anyway, blow up some of your guys, and like the 1,000 arrow thing, exactly. Like that's just what it came down to. That's what they had to do to kill these turtles. But like, that's realistic to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if I was actually trying to kill these turtles, that's what I would want to do too. Something that's almost foolproof.
Yeah, if you have like some freaking 5.5 foot turtle and like 4.5 foot rat coming at you with fucking ninja weapons, it's like, okay, you're gonna have to blast them away with something a little stronger than a punch. Like,
right?
Yeah, but the future stuff though, I was in that one. That's where Michelangelo starts training Casey Marie Jones, because she's talking all this crap like, oh, I'm the greatest. I'm already ready. I can go up there and kill the whole Foot Clan. Everything. He's like, you have no idea what the hell you're talking about, basically. And he's real tough with her when he trains her at first, which is kind of fun to see, since Michelangelo was always like the worst at training in all versions of the Turtles, that like he actually picked up on like the harshness of the lessons the most, kind of. But then like it seems like he's just being a jerk to her, but he's really like, it's like Pai Mei or something. It's like he actually has her best he has her success in mind. Like it's for her best interest. And he does want her to be stronger. But then that's also when he learns that, like, whoa, she's like weirdly strong. She's weirdly fast. She recovers from damage weirdly fast and stuff. And he accuses April of injecting her with mutagen at first. And then April's like, I'd never do that. It was that me and Casey, like, it was contagious. Like being around you guys so long, it ended up inside of us. And this is the plot point that, like, I feel it doesn't really go anywhere in The Last Ronin. But I'm guessing they're going to look into that in the Lost Years, because it can explain why Casey Marie is so tough, but like in the final battle, she doesn't really do anything. She shines the most during like the assault on Baxter Stockman, which actually happens at the end of this comic. A lot happens in issue 4. It's like the most jam-packed issue. But yeah, it's a weird plot point to bring up.
I bet she is going to be like, she's gonna play like a Casey Jones role in the Lost Years. Like I bet it'll be the 4 turtles and then Casey Marie, and she'll probably have the hockey mask and crap like that to be with them, because I'm assuming it's going to be like a power creep situation where these turtles are going to be stronger, Casey will be stronger, and their enemies will probably be stronger too as well.
Probably, yeah, that makes sense. I do have to say, actually, like Donatello, he dies in the snow. It's like a very artistic death. Something I don't know if it was intentional, but kind of like stands out to me is it's kind of almost poetic that like Raphael dies in water and Leo dies in fire. It's almost like their elements and their opposite elements and opposite colors. Like I don't know, like it almost seems like Raph wasn't like calm and gentle enough and like collected enough, and that ended up being his downfall. And Leo wasn't rageful and aggressive enough, and that was his downfall. I don't know if that was intentional or if I'm just looking into it way too hard.
I mean, you might be, man. You might be smarter than the actual writers for this.
But I think that's kind of like a poetic way of maybe if that was true, then do it. But yeah, so the final part of issue 4 is Mike and the Resistance actually go out after Baxter Stockman, who's on Liberty Island, who controls, that's where all the city is controlled and everything. That's where the whole like energy source is and everything. So they want to shut down everything, turn off the Sinja and everything. We forgot to mention in an earlier issue that April shows she has the head of Fugitoid still, who was who was also in the explosion with Leonardo and everything. She doesn't want to turn him on because that like in the lair, because that's how Baxter originally found them. It's how they got Leo killed and everything. So like he could track him. So they want to take him to Liberty Island and override all of Baxter's systems with Honeycut, Fugitoid, and spoil his whole plan. And this is where I said, like, when they're prepping for it, it drags on a little bit, where they're just doing a lot of technical talk, like we're gonna shut off the mainframe, this and that, and do. It's like, all right, let's talk and what we're doing. Like, come on, but
yeah, especially for it being the finale too, because I feel like the final showdown is almost a little bit short, honestly.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a bummer, especially like the last fight between Michelangelo and Hiroko Hiroto. And again, we're coming back to this bookend where we're getting into this high action, high octane fight that's going to be the climax of the story. And how do you feel about Hiroko Hiroto's armor?
Well, that's issue 5. I guess before we jump off issue 4,
I thought you said we were already moving to the final issue. My bad. I thought you already said that.
Issue 4 ends with the Baxter Stockman thing.
Yeah. Sorry.
I guess there's not much to say there. It's kind of creepy to see how Baxter Stockman's like a little bit of rotting flesh on a mechanical body at this point. Like he's barely even human anymore.
Yeah.
And he gets killed. Like Fugitoid electrocutes him until he's like disintegrated. But anyway, yeah, the final battle. Okay, so episode or issue 5 is just no bullshit. It is just Mike versus Hiroko Hiroto. And his army, he goes through there, takes out a bunch of like crazy robots. There's like some big robot one that he calls like a tank on legs or something. And there's even like robotic crows that swarm him at some point that he has to take out. The main part of that issue is just him fighting Hiroto. And yeah, his armor is interesting. He's like he's essentially wearing the T-1000 on his body.
Yeah. So it's almost like a liquid organic metal type suit that he has, and we haven't even seen it until now. But I'm not gonna lie, like it makes him kind of just look flat, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's really not the most exciting final form, and it kind of disappointed me a little bit.
Yeah, he's just essentially just a silver man with like blades on his knuckles. I mean, it's a cool idea. I like the idea. They don't really explain how it works, which I'm fine with, but it is kind of weird. Like, how is he mentally telling it to close up over his wounds and stuff? Like, how does it respond to him mentally? But yeah, it doesn't make for the greatest design. It's a bit of a lackluster design. It's just a shiny man, basically.
Really, like it's really one of my only criticisms with that final ending to it is I don't know. I felt like the last fight could have been played up a little bit more, and I feel like Hiroko Hiroto could have just been a little bit more. His design could have been a little bit more badass, and I feel like I don't know. I don't know. The ending. I'm not gonna say it fell flat for me, but I just don't feel like it was quite as awesome as what it built up to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty satisfied with it, honestly, especially the aftermath of it. But I think it feels a little rushed just because, an action part of a comic is always going to go by so much faster than like a dialogue part of a comic. And there's really not that much dialogue. It's mostly action. And in a movie, you know, if two people are fighting and then they fall through a glass roof and then they crash into another building, that can take minutes. In a comic, that can take like 2 panels.
Yeah.
So it goes by really fast, especially after at the end of issue 4, we just had all those slow moments with them talking about, and then we're gonna break in here, and then we're gonna do that. So it feels like it just goes from like kind of slow to like a breakneck pace all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And
yeah, because again, it goes from that the issues 2, 3, 4, they're not slow, but issues 1 and issues 5 just fly.
yeah, they're just like they hit the ground running and they're just balls to the wall action the whole time. They have a good fight. They you know, Mike starts to learn over the course of it that like if he, you know, strikes the armor hard enough in certain places, it'll like open up a little bit. It will like get weaker and kind of like temporarily open, almost like a video game boss. Like you have to expose the weak point.
Got his weak spot.
And I like that with each time he exposes it, he hits him with a different one of the turtle's weapons. He stabs him with the scythe, so that one's for Wrath. And then he guts him with the katana, and he's like, Leo sends his regards and all this stuff. And then he smashes Donnie's bow staff on his face after that, because he beats Hiroto at first. And Hiroto's on his knees, like Dr. Wily, speaking of Mega Man earlier.
Right.
Like, I give up, you beat me, I surrender. And Mike's about to, he picks up a manhole cover. He's about to just straight up decapitate this dude with a manhole cover, or just smash his head like a pumpkin or something. And as Mike's doing it, like Hiroto like breaks his honor and slashes Mike through the gut. That's where Mike's like he's like, yeah, it's not honorable, but I'm a freaking idiot for falling for that, because that's like the oldest trick in the book. Like how could I fall for that? And that's when he smashes Donnie's bow staff against his face. Basically, what he intended to do, you said in the first issue, he was going there to either destroy the Foot Clan and avenge his family and save the city, or die trying. He actually ends up doing both. He kills the Foot Clan and saves the city, and he dies trying. So he's like, you know, he ends up going in the sewers to like regroup, and you know, Hiroto follows him down there, and then Mike's in his element. He ends up beating him in the sewer, which I actually also thought was pretty cool, that the turtles were always the saviors of the city. And now as all the people are trying to save the city, the resistance is all in the sewers. So it's kind of like the sewers is where like the power is. It's like kind of like where everyone united against everything. But yeah, he ends up killing him, but then like Mike's bleeding out. And then Casey Marie finds him, and he dies in front of her and everything. And he tells her like, you know, read Splinter's book. I wrote a new lesson in there. He wrote like a final lesson in there just for her and everything. And then like April comes over and sees Mike's dead and everything. And then we get Mike's, I guess like it's his afterlife. It's either the last thing he ever sees, or it's his, I think more of like it's afterlife. It's kind of sad if he just sees that and then he ceases to exist. Again, it didn't make me cry, but it's an emotional scene. It's like the turtles, they wake him up, they're goofing around, like, get up, lazy head, you're slacking off again. Like, we're going out to the rooftops to train and everything. And they run out and they're making fun of each other. And then like, it turns out Casey Jones is there, and then Splinter's there, and they're all joking around and talking about getting pizza and everything. And then they just kind of stop and all like together, just happy, smiling, like look out over the city. And it's almost like symbolic of like, in the original Mirage comics, you see them all angry on the nighttime rooftops. Now you see the sun behind them on the rooftops, and they're all happy with each other. And it's like, oh, that's beautiful. I don't know. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and again, like for a final arc, like I feel like I'm accepting of that ending. Like
it's funny because, you know, when you talk to me as a kid of like, what is Ninja Turtles? Like, oh, it's that goofy ass show I loved about like whatever the hell was happening, aliens coming down, and you know, just King Kong showing up and Robotic Bebop and Rocksteady and all this dumb stuff. But it's like, when you get to the core of Turtles, I guess that was like a goofy spin-off cartoon. You get to the core of the Turtles, it is kind of interesting when you think about it. Like, if there is this endless feud going on between them, there is kind of probably no way the story could ever end truly happily. But it seems like the least happy ending you could give the Turtles, but like you said, in a way, they do leave you feeling good about it.
I'm not calling it a happy ending whatsoever, because it's definitely not. But like, in this like world, like because again, like you look at the turtles from a lot of different angles. You look at the '87 cartoon, you look at the Mirage comics, you look at the movie. Like it really would be that way to where they could never just like truly retire and rest and just kind of walk off into the sunset. Like
Yeah.
someone's always going to be coming after them. Someone's always going to need their help. Like it really is just like a hero will always have a tragic end because they're either going to fight till the day they die or regardless, yes, they will fight till the day they die, whether it be old or young. And I don't know. I'm not. I wish the turtles never had to end, but again, like I'm accepting that at least Michelangelo made it all worth it in the end, and at the end, nobody really died in vain.
Yeah. And at least the brothers can be together again.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, so we're running a little low on time, but we're going to cover the Lost Years real quick now because you've been reading that, I believe. I have not read any of it. I've only seen like a couple stills of the comic.
Yeah, so because basically the first miniseries ends with a little epilogue, and it basically shows April with these four new baby turtles. So it kind of ends off on a to be continued, and that's where the Lost Years basically picks up. So with the Lost Years, it's basically kind of splitting in both directions right now. It's going back to Michelangelo's time between basically when he decided that he was going to live and he didn't want to die in the mountains where the Ronin started. And it's also covering from where the Ronin left off going forward. So we're kind of seeing these turtles grow up over time. April, she's referred to as Grammy April, but I mean, she's really like their mom. Casey Marie's there to help them out with stuff like that. But basically, again, we're only, I think I'm two issues in right now. So we haven't really gotten a lot that's going on with them. It's mostly been covering the Michelangelo stuff as of right now.
Okay, that's interesting because honestly, I hate to say it because it just makes me sound like such an old fart who like hates new things, and I don't. I'm interested to see where these new turtles go, but I'm so much more interested in the Michelangelo side of the story than I am the new four turtles.
Because again, they really haven't done much with the new turtles, but I'm excited to see what the dynamics like when they're actually like full grown to see what they are. And again, it's not that these turtles are replacing the old turtles like has been reported by so many ignorant news outlets. This is its own universe, it's its own thing, and the IDW turtles still exist as their own thing too. So again, it's something totally different. I can get on board with it. So I'm curious to see where it's going to go. And also, there's another series that's going to start later as well. It's another Ronin series. I can't remember what that's called, but there's another one starting too.
Oh, wow, I actually didn't even know about that one.
Yeah.
On one note, I think the Last Ronin is so good just as it is, just like it tells the story it has to tell. I think making it a mini series was perfect. It gives you just enough time to flesh it out enough while also not overstaying its welcome and getting into like territory it doesn't need to. So on one note, I'm kind of like, just leave it alone. It was so good. But on the other note, it's like, it's probably one of the best things that's happened to Ninja Turtles in the past decade. So it's like, yeah, by all means, keep it going. Like,
Easily. It's selling books, you know what I mean? So as long as it, and we're getting a video game now, that's a big
yeah,
step. And honestly, if we ever get an R-rated Turtles, this is what it will be because this will be the perfect way to do it because you don't have to have kids' minds be blown by turtles dropping F-bombs. You'll have this totally different character, essentially, you know what I mean? That
yeah.
is a turtle, but isn't at the same time. So I feel like if they do something R-rated, that's the route they would go.
I think so. I think it'd be the logical step because even if there was no F bombs and stuff, like you can't show a kid Raphael being murdered. Like you can't
Right?
do that. Like, I mean, I guess they did it to Optimus Prime back in the 80s, but you know, I don't know. It just seems like it's too far for kids, the
Yeah.
story. But yeah, I think if they're gonna adapt any R-rated turtle story, that's the way to go. The Last Ronin has proven so successful. I think the video game is gonna make it even more
Yeah.
successful.
As long as it's good. Hopefully it's just a good game. That's really the key
Yeah.
there.
I think they're really trying to go for like an Arkham Knight, like Spider-Man kind of vibe with it. Like I think more so like Arkham Knight, kind of like the dark, like city
Yeah.
and everything. The Arkham games. I never played them, so there's not one called Arkham Knight, and I'm just talking like an idiot right now. I apologize. There's like Arkham Asylum, Arkham City.
Yeah, I can't remember what they're called either, but there's the 3 Arkham games, the Arkham trilogy. I do know that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's what they're going for. And I've never played those kinds of games, but if you're gonna slap Ninja Turtles on it, I'll give it a try.
Yep.
So
Oh yeah.
I'm glad to see that it's doing well, that this series is getting, action figures, video games, possibly even if it's just straight to streaming animation, if it's possibly going to get a video version at some point, because I think it is the best thing to happen to Turtles in a long time. I think while I don't agree with everybody, some fans are really mad that they always just make kid friendly Turtle stuff. Like that sells the best, but this is a great love letter to long term Turtles fans.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
All right. Well.
All right. That's all we got for this one, guys.
Have a good one.
Peace.